She was 40 years old, married, my neighbor, and somehow, she turned my entire world upside down. I didn't go looking for this. I wasn't trying to fall for anyone. I was just a broke guy trying to hold his life together, one day at a time. But the moment she walked into that office, something shifted, and I didn't realize it then, but nothing was ever going to be the same again. Let me take you back to the beginning. I had just landed a temporary tech job at Hartwell Publishing. Nothing glamorous, just fixing wires, sorting systems, making myself useful wherever they needed me. It wasn't my dream, but the rent was due and this was what I had. So I showed up. Except, on my very first day, I was late, not a little late, properly embarrassingly late. I came through the front door with papers half tucked under my arm, jacket still damp from rushing through the morning, and the whole office went quiet. Not because of me exactly, because of her. She was standing at the front of the room, holding a staff welcome meeting, and my entrance interrupted the entire thing. Every head turned. I froze in the doorway, and then I saw her face. She didn't shout. She didn't roll her eyes. She just looked at me, steady, calm. The kind of calm that's more unnerving than anger. Her name was Claire, the new manager, and she had auburn hair that fell loose around her shoulders, and this way of standing that made it clear she was used to being the most capable person in the room. She was around 40, and even in that first awkward moment, there was something about her I couldn't quite look away from. I found my seat. She continued the meeting like I hadn't just crashed it. I told myself, keep your head down, do your work, don't cause problems. That was the plan. The plan lasted about 4 hours. My workspace was just on the other side of the wall from her office, and the work I needed to do involved a lot of noise. Drilling, hammering, the kind of sounds that travel straight through old walls. I didn't think much of it until her office door opened, and there she was, standing in my workspace, looking at me with that same steady expression. I need you to work outside of business hours, she said. No please, no apology. Just a clear, direct statement. The noise is making it impossible for the staff to concentrate. I wanted to argue. I genuinely had work I needed to get done. But something about the way she said it made me close my mouth. She turned to leave, and then she paused, right there in the doorway. Just for a second. She didn't say anything else. She didn't look back. But that pause, that one small moment, stayed with me longer than it had any right to. I packed up my tools for the day. That evening she apparently went home and told her husband Adam about her first day. I heard it through the office the next morning, that the company was years behind, still running on manual systems, that it was going to take real work and real time to fix. I remember thinking, she sounds exhausted, and also like someone who will fix it anyway. The next morning I was back at my wall, back to the noise, old habits, and she came back. Same doorway, same expression, except this time when she told me again, quietly, firmly, something flickered behind her eyes. Not anger exactly. Something more complicated than that. I pushed back a little. Nothing dramatic. Just a comment about the timeline I was working against. And she looked at me for a moment longer than necessary, like she was deciding something. Then she left. That night, the building cleared out early. Everyone had somewhere to be. I stayed back because I had cable routing to finish in the server room. It was quiet in a way the office never was during the day. Just the hum of the ventilation and the sound of my own footsteps. And then I noticed it. A light under her office door. She was still here. I wasn't planning to look. I want to be clear about that. I was walking past, but the door wasn't fully latched, and as I passed it, swung open just slightly, and I saw her, Claire, sitting at her desk in the empty office. Her shoulders curved slightly inward, the way people hold themselves when they're certain no one is watching. She had something playing on her laptop screen. Something she clearly hadn't expected anyone to see. I had my phone in my hand before I thought about what I was doing. That was my first mistake. And honestly, it was the beginning of everything. If you want more stories like this, real, emotional, and human, subscribe to the channel. We post new stories every week. Now let's get back to it. I want to say I deleted the photos immediately, that I came to my senses and just let it go. But I didn't. I stood there in that corridor for a long time after, thinking, not about blackmail, not about anything calculated. I just knew that whatever I'd seen had given me something, and I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do with it. The next morning I arrived before most of the staff. I waited outside her office. When she came in, she was carrying her coffee, keys in hand, and she nearly walked straight into me. She stepped back, composed herself, and waited for me to say whatever I was clearly there to say. I kept my voice low. I told her I knew what she'd been doing alone in the office last night, and that I had documentation. I watched her face very carefully. She was good. The composure held. Her expression didn't break. But her grip on that coffee cup tightened just slightly. She said, "What do you want?" Not panicked, not furious, just direct. And I realized in that moment, she was going to try to solve this the way she solved everything else. Efficiently, she looked me over. The way someone measures a problem. I could see her calculating. Young guy, temporary contract, probably needs money. She offered me a number, a reasonable one, to delete the photos and forget I'd ever seen anything. And I said, "I'd rather have lunch." That threw her. She stared at me, not with fear. She was past fear, more like reassessment, like I'd said something in a language she hadn't expected. A long silence sat between us, the kind that has weight. And then she said, "Fine." Just that, "Fine," and walked into her office. I stood there in the corridor for a second, and I noticed I was smiling. I didn't mean to be. At the restaurant, she chose a table near the window. We sat across from each other. The city moved outside the glass. And for the first few minutes, we made careful, surface-level conversation. Work things, safe things. But then she reached across the table for the water jug, and her hand crossed over mine where it rested on the tablecloth. She didn't pull back immediately. It lasted maybe 2 seconds, but I felt it, and I think she did too, because she looked up, and for a moment we were just looking at each other, not saying anything. The noise of the restaurant around us and this quiet between us that felt separate from all of it. Then she said, "Why are you really doing this?" Not accusatory, genuinely asking. And for a second, I saw something move across her face. Something tired, something honest, like she'd put down something heavy for just a moment. "Are you lonely?" she said quietly. "Or is this actually about leverage?" I didn't get to answer. A friend of hers appeared at the table. Big smile, loud greeting, and the moment closed like a door. We got back to the office, and before I could say anything, she reached over and took my phone straight out of my hand. Clean, confident, like she'd already decided she was going to do it. "I'll hold on to this," she said. And that was that. I watched her walk to her office. I let her think she'd won. About an hour later, the whole afternoon turned sideways. Denise from PR came to find me, then Friedrich from editorial. Both of them panicking. Someone had accessed their personal accounts. Strange activity. They needed the technical employee to fix it. They needed me, and I needed my phone. I watched Claire's face in the moment she understood. I saw the exact second it landed, that I had set this up. The account issue, the timing, the way she'd taken my phone. All of it had been engineered to get it back. She was annoyed, properly annoyed. She stood very still for a moment, and then that corner of her mouth moved, just barely. She looked away before I could be sure of what I'd seen. She went to the bathroom. She was gone for a few minutes. When she came back, she was different. Not in a dramatic way, just deliberate, decided, like she'd made up her mind about something in there. She walked up to me and placed something in my palm. Her lipstick, a deep, rich burgundy. Her fingers rested there a half-second longer than they needed to, and she said, "That color is the most me." She looked at me directly. "So tell me how you're planning to return it." I didn't answer. I didn't have one. She walked away, and I stood there with her lipstick in my hand, warm from her fingers, and tried to work out what had just happened. That was the beginning of the game, and I didn't know it yet, but it was also the beginning of something I wasn't going to be able to stop. The next morning, an envelope arrived on Claire's desk. Through the receptionist. From me. Inside were the rules. Simple ones. Whoever holds the lipstick can make one demand of the other person. The other person must fulfill it. No objections. No refusals. My first demand for her: yell at someone. I watched from across the open office as she read the note. I saw her jaw tighten slightly. Then she stood up and started moving through the floor. She was looking for a target. She passed a few desks, considered people, and then she landed on the receptionist, who had left her station without permission. She started to raise her voice, and then stopped, because the receptionist said, very calmly, that Claire had given her permission to leave early herself. She'd forgotten. She had no one to yell at. She stood in the middle of the office, processing this, and then she turned and looked at me. She knew I was watching. She knew I had seen the whole thing, and instead of being angry, she pressed her lips together to keep from laughing. Then she went back to her office, and I felt something warm move through my chest that I didn't know what to do with. The demands kept coming. A few days later, she messaged me late at night. I was home in my apartment. The message came through around 10. She was at a dinner party with Adam and his friends. She didn't say that exactly, but I could hear it between the words. The flatness in how she typed. The timing. She asked me to cause chaos at the following morning's meeting. Something she could watch. Something that would break the gray mood she was carrying. The next morning, I told the building's cleaning staff that Claire had arranged for coffee to be brought in as a thank you to the whole team. They arrived mid-meeting, with trolleys. In the middle of a sentence, the entire room erupted. Friedrich looked appalled. Denise looked thrilled. Claire sat at the head of the table with her hands folded and her face perfectly controlled. But her eyes found mine across the room, and they were absolutely shining. After the meeting, she came to my workspace and held the lipstick out. I took it. Our fingers overlapped. We both looked down at the same moment, then back up. A beat of silence between us. Neither of us spoke. She walked away, and I stood there thinking, this has stopped being a game. I don't think it ever really was one. My next demand was straightforward. She had to arrive the following morning dressed like a 90s pop singer. I half expected her to refuse, to send a message saying she wasn't doing it. She didn't. She showed up the next morning in an outfit that made the entire office stop moving. Color, pattern, commitment. Every single person stared. She walked past all of them without acknowledging a single reaction. And when she got to where I was standing, she looked at me, just me, like I was the only person whose reaction mattered. I grinned. She handed me the lipstick, and we walked out to get coffee. On the street outside, she was still carrying the energy of it, that lightness that comes from doing something ridiculous and surviving it. And we were standing closer than I'd registered. I turned to face her and realized how close we actually were. The noise of the street around us, the morning cold still in the air, and something moved in me that I hadn't planned. I kissed her, just once, brief, because the moment felt like the only honest response to it. She didn't step back. She stayed exactly where she was, and looked at me after with an expression I'm still not sure how to describe. Not shock exactly, more like recognition, like something had finally been named. Then she turned and went back inside, and I stood there on the street for a moment, knowing I was in serious trouble. The book fair arrived and changed everything. Our whole team traveled together, and it was there, away from the office and the routines and the careful distance we maintained, that everything underneath finally started showing. She still had the lipstick, which meant it was her turn to make a demand. She left a note on my hotel room door the evening before the fair opened. The note said, "Do something that draws everyone's attention. You'll know when." I spent the whole first day of the fair thinking about it, watching the room, waiting for the moment, and then in the middle of a panel event, when the room was full and quiet and focused, I found the main breaker box backstage, and I cut the lights. The entire room dropped into darkness. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then the room erupted. I was already moving toward the exit. I slipped out before anyone knew where it had come from. I reappeared 20 minutes later at the front entrance, looking entirely unbothered. Claire found me at the edge of the fair floor. She walked up to me slowly, and looked at me for a long moment before she spoke. "That was you," she said, not a question. "Obviously," I said, and she laughed, really laughed. The kind of laugh she didn't seem to let out very often. Full and warm and completely unguarded. I thought, I want to make her do that again, every day, for a long time. That evening she went back to her room. I went to mine. The rooms were across the corridor from each other. I knew that. She knew that. Neither of us mentioned it. I sat on my bed for a while, and then I stood up and walked to her door. I stood there for longer than I should have. Hand raised, not knocking yet, just standing in the quiet corridor with the muffled sounds of the hotel around me, thinking about what it meant if I knocked, what it meant if I didn't. I knocked. The door opened almost immediately. She had been standing just on the other side. We looked at each other in the doorway, the warm light of her room spilling out into the corridor behind her. Neither of us said anything for a moment. "Are you going to stand out there all night?" she said. I stepped inside. The next day was the press conference. And I don't know what it says about me, but I genuinely planned the whole thing. I wasn't proud of it, but I did it. I got into the kitchen before the event, found the dessert course, and added something to it. Something mild. Something that would make everyone feel very, very relaxed. Very sleepy. I found Claire before it started, pulled her aside, told her not to eat the sweets. She looked at me with narrowed eyes. "What did you do?" she said. "Trust me," I said. "That's a terrible answer," she said. But she didn't eat the sweets. The press conference started well, professional, polished, and then about 40 minutes in, Friedrich and Denise started arguing. Volume rising, not exactly professional. And then one by one, the staff began to get very quiet, then very still, then completely unconscious in their chairs. Took about 10 minutes for the room to empty out entirely. Just Claire and me, sitting at opposite ends of a very long table, in complete silence. She looked down the length of the table at me. "You drugged the entire company," she said. "They're fine," I said. "They're asleep in their chairs. Comfortable chairs," I said. She stared at me, and then she put her face in her hands, and her shoulders started shaking. She was laughing. She was furious and she was laughing. And I thought, I am absolutely gone for this woman. We went to the hotel pool that evening. Just the two of us. The water was still. The lights reflected on the surface. And we floated there in the quiet, not talking much, just existing in the same space without the office and the game and the performance of it all around us. At one point she drifted close, and I felt her hand brush my arm under the water. She didn't look at me when she did it. She kept looking up at the ceiling of the pool room, but she didn't move away. We stayed there until the water cooled, and when we went back to the hotel, we didn't pretend we were going to separate rooms. I should tell you that that night felt different from everything else. It wasn't the game. It wasn't leverage. It wasn't complicated. It was just her and me, and something that had been building for months finally becoming honest. But that's when things started to get hard, because the real world doesn't stay outside hotel rooms forever, and I was about to find out exactly how difficult this was going to get. When we got back from the book fair the week after, Claire didn't come back to the office. The first day I assumed she had meetings off-site. The second day I asked someone. Working from home, they said. The third day I messaged her. She read it, didn't reply. A week passed, then 2, 3, and I understood. She was pulling back, trying to put distance between the hotel and the real version of her life, trying to make what happened become something that happened and was now over. I let it go for as long as I could. 3 weeks exactly. Then one gray Tuesday afternoon, I showed up at her front door. She lived on my street. I had known that since the beginning. She opened the door. She looked tired, not in a bad way, in the way that people look when they've been carrying something too heavy for too long. She looked at me standing on her doorstep with my jacket still damp from the walk over, and she said, "You shouldn't be here." "I know," I said. "Adam isn't home," I said. She looked at me for a long moment, and then she stepped aside. We sat at her kitchen table, tea between us, going cold. She sat close enough that I could feel the warmth of her, but there was a careful distance in how she held herself. She said, "This was wrong," and I said, "I know it's complicated." "That's not what I said," she said. "I know," I said. Silence. The kitchen around us quiet. The afternoon light fading through the window. "I'm not going to pretend," she said finally, "that I don't." She stopped, started again. "It wasn't just me filling in something that was missing," she said. "I want you to know that." I didn't say anything. I just looked at her, and she looked back, and that was enough. We didn't hear the front door. We didn't hear the hallway. We just heard Adam's voice suddenly from the kitchen doorway, saying my name, asking what I was doing here. Claire answered before I could. She said I had come to look at the dishwasher, that it had been making a noise. Adam looked at the dishwasher, then at me. I got up and went to the dishwasher without a word, got on the floor, opened the panel, pretended to look at things. My chest was tight the entire time. Adam moved around the kitchen, made himself coffee, and I lay there under a dishwasher I hadn't broken, fixing a problem that didn't exist, while the woman I was in love with stood on the other side of the room and said nothing. I packed up, said it looked like a loose connection, said I'd sort it properly another time, and I left. I walked home in the dark, and I made a decision somewhere between her front door and mine. I was done. I wasn't going to keep doing this. Whatever it was we were doing, I wasn't going to keep being the secret. I went into the office the next morning with my decision made. Keep it professional. Keep it clean. Don't look at her office when you walk past. And then she appeared beside my workstation. She said my name, just once, quietly, like it cost her something, and my whole decision dissolved. Just like that. She said she was sorry, that she hadn't meant to disappear, that she'd been scared, not of Adam finding out, scared of how real it had become, scared of how much she meant it. I looked at her for a long moment, and then I said, "Do you want to see where I live?" She looked surprised. I think she expected more from me, some kind of speech, something eloquent, but that was what I had. She said yes. My apartment was small. That's the honest description. One room that functioned as everything. A kitchen the size of a cupboard. A window that faced the brick wall of the building next door. She stood in the middle of it and looked around. And then she looked at me. "It's very you," she said. "That's generous," I said. She laughed. We ended up on my worn sofa with the afternoon light coming in at an angle across the floor. She had her shoes off, her legs tucked up. Our shoulders were touching. We weren't talking about the hotel or Adam or the office. She was asking me things. Real things. What I wanted to do with my life. Whether I liked this work or just needed it. What I was afraid of. I told her about my mother. How my mother thought I had a habit of choosing women who weren't fully available. That she'd said it to me more than once. That she was probably right. Claire was quiet for a moment. "She sounds like she loves you very much," she said. "She does," I said. "She also drives me mad." "That's how you know it's real," Claire said. And she rested her head against my shoulder. Just lightly, like she'd decided it was allowed. I didn't move. I barely breathed. We stayed like that for a long time. Later that evening, I looked at my phone and there was a message from my brother. He'd seen a photo of Claire that I'd had on my camera roll. She'd appeared on my screen when he was borrowing my phone one weekend. He'd asked about her. I told him more than I meant to. He'd shown my mother. My mother had called me 3 times since. I hadn't answered. I told Claire. She went very still. "What did she say?" Claire asked. "She hasn't reached me directly yet," I said. "But I know what she's going to say." Claire nodded. She understood. She didn't try to make it easier than it was. And I respected her more for that. The days that followed were the closest thing to normal we'd had. Small messages in the morning. Conversations in the office that went longer than they needed to. Standing close to each other in the corridor and neither of us moving away. And then the grenade landed. I was in my workspace when I heard Adam's voice from Claire's office. He'd come to the office. He didn't do that. I made sure I was nowhere visible. But I heard it later from Claire. He had announced they were moving to London. He had a position there. He'd already looked at flats. He wanted her to leave her job and come with him. He had not asked her opinion before deciding any of it. I heard her tell the director, Ronnie, later that afternoon, that she would be handing in her notice, that she was relocating. It was professional, measured, completely unlike anything she actually felt. I was passing the corridor when she said it, and I stopped. I stood there outside the door, and then I walked in front of Ronnie, in front of whoever else was in the room. I looked at Claire and I said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" She excused herself. We stepped outside, and I said, not loudly, not dramatically, "You're not going." She looked at me. "You don't get to decide that," she said. "I know," I said. "I'm not deciding anything. I'm just telling you that if you go, it's not because you want to. It's because he decided and you went along with it. Like you always do." She stared at me. I watched something move through her face. Anger first, then something rawer. "You don't understand what my life is," she said. "I understand more than you think," I said. "I've watched you for months, Claire. I've watched what you do when you're treated like an afterthought. You go quiet. You go to the bathroom. You find small ways to feel like yourself again. The movies, the game, me, silence, the corridor around us empty, just the sound of the building and the distance between us. You deserve to take up space," I said, "in your own life." She looked at me for a long moment, and then she said very quietly, "What we have is madness." "I know," I said. "It's not love," she said. "I don't believe you," I said. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the lipstick, and placed it on the windowsill between us. "I'm sorry," she said, and she walked away. I stood there for a long time, staring at that lipstick. And then I picked it up, put it in my pocket, and went back to work. The next few days were the worst of it. She worked from home again. The office felt like a different building without her in it. I went through the motions, fixed things, answered questions, smiled when I was supposed to. And every morning I woke up and thought, this is just how it is now. And every morning it felt like swallowing something sharp. I heard through the office that Adam had arranged a dinner for the following weekend. A group of friends. A kind of informal farewell to London, people were saying. Like it was already decided. I heard nothing from Claire. I stopped expecting to. And then on a Saturday morning, something broke. I wasn't there when it started, but someone who was told me about it afterward. Adam was at dinner with friends. Claire was there, and Adam was doing what he apparently always did. Managing her in front of people. Filling her sentences in before she finished them. Laughing at things she said with a tone that made them small. And then he said something about her father. Something dismissive. Something mean dressed up as a joke. And Claire, for the first time in a long time, didn't let it go. She said something back. In front of everyone. Sharp. Clear. Not cruel. But completely honest. Adam went quiet. His friends went quiet. And Claire stood up from the table. She left. She drove straight to the office. It was Saturday. It was empty. She came inside still in her coat. Hair loose. Eyes bright. And she walked into a meeting that wasn't supposed to be happening. Some freelancer had booked the main conference room over the weekend, and she walked in mid-session not knowing anyone in the room. The freelancer froze, then stood up, then tore up the contract she'd been reviewing, and walked out. I don't fully understand what happened in that room. Neither does Claire, honestly. But something about her energy in that moment was so raw, so uncalculated, scattered the room. I got a message that afternoon. One line. I'm at the office. I was there in 12 minutes. She was in the main corridor, coat still on, looking out the window at the street below. She heard me come in. She didn't turn around. I walked up and stood beside her, looking out the same window. The street was quiet. Late Saturday afternoon light on the pavement. I didn't go, she said. I know, I said. I'm not going, she said. I didn't say anything. He announced it like I wasn't a person with opinions, she said. He does that. I know, I said. And I let him. For years I let him. Because it was easier. Because I didn't think I was allowed to want something different. She turned and looked at me. Her eyes were bright. Not crying. Something stronger than that. I want something different, she said. I reached into my pocket. I held out the lipstick. She looked at it for a moment. Then she looked at me. You kept it, she said. I always kept it, I said. She took it from my hand. Her fingers closed around mine and stayed there. The corridor was quiet. The building was quiet. The whole city felt quiet in that moment. And I thought, this is it. This is what it was always building toward. Not the game. Not the hotel room. Not the chaos and the demands and the careful distance. This, her standing in an empty office on a Saturday afternoon with her coat still on, having just decided that her own life was worth the disruption. What happens now, she said. I don't know exactly, I said honestly. There's a lot to figure out. Yes, she said. But not today, I said. No, she said. Not today. She leaned into me, her head against my shoulder. Same as the sofa. Same warmth. I put my arm around her. And we stood there looking out the window at the quiet street. Two people who had found each other sideways. Through noise and games and all the wrong reasons. And somehow, ended up here anyway. I'm not going to tell you it was simple after that. It wasn't. There were conversations that needed to happen. Hard ones. There were things that needed to end and things that needed to begin. There were nights that were heavy and mornings that were uncertain. But she was there for all of them. And so was I. And I want to tell you something about what it feels like to be chosen by someone who had every reason to choose the safe thing instead. It doesn't feel triumphant. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like standing in a quiet corridor on a Saturday afternoon, while someone hands you a piece of themselves they've been holding back for a long time. It feels like being trusted. Feels like being seen. She was 40 years old. She was my neighbor. She had built a life that looked right from the outside. And she looked at all of it and at me, and she chose something real. And that changed everything. Not in a dramatic way. In the best way. The only way that matters. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. We post new stories every week. Real emotions. Real people. Real life. See you next time.